Hello, a Rosie math teacher coming at you from my fourth period accelerated grade 7 math class. Today we are working on our session 2 review items 25 through 32. A lot of students, y'all, have been missing item number 25 at first because it's a little tiny bit confusing. They ask you to use the table that represents a linear relationship, and they have the following numbers across the top for my x values. Their y values across the bottom are -5, 1, and 4. So obviously you are making an ordered pair out of each of these. However, when they say to graph the relationship, they do not mean graph every point that you see. When you click on your tool, it is a tool that has precisely 2 points on it. So pick any two and plot those. Do you understand how you will successfully work number 25? Okay, moving on, we're talking about number 26, which I do think I probably need to give a little bit more explanation. They want you to find the value of y. Class, y is located right here where I've drawn my red angle mark. And don't you recall that when we learned the rule about two angles that work together to form a straight angle are called what? Supplementary angles. Why are they called supplementary angles? Because together they would equal what?
180.
180. Excellent. So my unknown black angle plus my unknown red angle, also known as y, do we agree those would together equal 180 degrees? Yes. But sadly, do we know 5x plus 1? No, we do not. That's what makes it so sad. So I am not able to write 5x plus 1 plus y equals 180 because I have two different variables. I have both an x and a y. I don't have enough information to solve y. Therefore, I am looking at some other way to determine what this black angle equals 5x plus 1, because I need that angle so that I can do that plus y to equal 180. Are you with me so far? Okay, so take a really close look then, guys, at this angle right here, what I was calling, let me use black, what I was calling my black angle. Is it possibly a part of another angle that possibly has a sign that lets us know we can do something with this and with this to equal what this sign is indicating? So let's start here. Class, what is this red box indicating? Right angle, which is worth what? 90 degrees. Do you remember learning that when you have two angles working together to equal 90 degrees, we call them what? Complementary angles. Remember, it is right to be complementary. All right, so 5x plus 1, if you want to take these notes, you may, or you could wait till later. You would do 5x plus 1. What symbol shall I write next? Plus. Excellent. Thank you, one person. Plus what?
7.
Great. More participation. 7x what? Minus 7. Will equal what? Think carefully.
90.
The 90. Excellent. When I have combined like terms, my 5x and my 7x, I'll have a new amount of x. When I combine my positive 1 and my negative 7, I'll have a plus or minus with a new constant. I would then solve that two-step equation to find the value of just what? X. Once I know the value of x, which angle can I now find? Can I now find the total number of degrees in my angle 5x plus 1? Yes. Why? Because if I know the value of x, won't I then, in my calculator, multiply 5 times that value of x that I just found plus 1, and won't that equal the number of degrees for this black angle here? Yes. And once I find that, I can then create an equation that says a new value of x, not the same one. So let's just give it a different variable. Let's call it z. So the number of degrees for the black angle I could call z, plus the value of y would equal what? Because they are supplementary angles. Say it, class? 180. That is all the help I'm giving there for now. Please remember that when you get to 26. Number 27. A spinner is divided into sections, each with a different color. So I don't know how many sections this spinner is split into. I could just make it split into whatever variety I want, just to remind myself what I'm working with. It says they are labeled with different colors. I'm going to pretend red, white, blue, green, orange. Now, if the spinner is spun 2 times, there are 36 outcomes in the sample space. Let's talk about how do we represent 2 spins. I usually have you guys draw an arrow, so draw an arrow for the first spin. This time it's not a probability ratio, it's a whole number to tell the number of sections that might be in this wheel. Now, I just drew a wheel and made up my own number of sections. Ignore my drawing. That's just to get my brain working. I'm not using that number. I don't know the number of sections. So I'm just writing a number symbol to say that's where my whole number would go. Yes? Under the second arrow, I will write what? Will I write the same whole number again or a different whole number? Every single time I spin a spinner, if the spinner has not changed, will the number of possible outcomes on the spinner remain the same, or will the number of possible outcomes on the spinner change? They will stay the same. So I will write the exact same number, if I knew it, in the space under the second arrow. Now guys, what do we do with the number of possible outcomes on the first spin with the number of possible outcomes on the second spin? We what them? Multiply them. In this case, they give you a hint. It would result in 36 outcomes in the sample space after multiplying a same number times a same number. So ask yourself this. If we want 2 factors of 36 that are the same, we should therefore find the what of 36?
Square root.
Square root, exactly. That's all I'm going to say about that item. Item number 28. For which of the following systems of linear equations is 2, -7 a solution? Select all that apply. Guys, this is the thing where you will simply take the very first set of the expression after the equal sign and plug into your calculator, in this case, 3 times what was the value of x? 2. And then copy, hold on, sorry that happened to you, -13. If it equals what, we are happy? -7. So you're trying to see if it does equal or does not equal -7. Now, does that immediately mean you would pick A if it does? No. You have to make sure it also solves the second equation. So then, before you pick it, so don't pick it yet, before you pick it, what would you put in your calculator to begin, since x begins at this time? 2, take away 5. If that equals -7, now would you pick option A? If it does, then you would pick it only when that ordered pair is the solution to both equations. If it's only the solution to one or none, you don't pick it. You keep going on to every single item in the same way. All right, next item I want to talk about is 29. You are looking at trapezoid TUVW, dilated to form T prime, U prime, V prime, W prime. What is the scale factor of the dilation? I'll remind you, compare 2 lines that relate. Do you guys agree that line measured 10 and the line measured 8 both agree?
Yes.
Since you would multiply the pre-image times the scale factor to get the image Do you agree that this scale factor ought to be less than? It ought to be less than 1. For what reason? Because the new image is what? Smaller. If it gets smaller, you know you're multiplying by something less than 1. If it gets larger, you know you're multiplying by something greater than 1. There's also one other way. Remember that you can always take the image, which is the prime number section, and divide it by the pre-image, which is the original lettered section. All right, moving on to item 30. This one is very important for you guys to remember what you've learned about triangles. Fill in the bubbles to indicate whether the side lengths form a right triangle, but not a right triangle, no triangle. Now, here's what you got to do. First, you've got to determine if it could possibly be a right triangle. If the answer is no, then you move on to see if it could at least still be a triangle, just not a right triangle. Do you get how if you've already said no to this, then you know it's not a right triangle, right? Then you're just using the is it a triangle formula. If you say no to both of these, then is there any test for this? No. Then you know it's a no triangle situation. Now, I'm reminding you what you need to write for notes on your page. For the right triangle, remember you are using the formula a squared plus b squared, write it down so you remember, equals c squared. Guys, this is called the Pythagorean theorem. They do not give it to you on your reference sheet. So you must memorize this, okay? And only for right triangles. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. Secondly, and this item they do give you on the reference sheet on the back side at the top, they give you this formula. If both of the two shorter sides have a sum that is greater than your longest side, then you know it will make a triangle. So please write a plus b is greater than c. Remember, we've practiced this before where we make our thumbs the base of the triangle, and then we make our pointer fingers the two sides. As long as the sum of my pointer fingers is greater than the base, then I know it will make a triangle. If I do the reverse and I make a base out of my pointer fingers, look at my little shorty thumbs trying to make a triangle. If they meet, they don't make a triangle, do they? They can just try all they want. They're never going to meet. They're never going to make a triangle. Why? Because thumb plus thumb is not greater than the base. Then you have the scenario. This time let's pretend the thumbs and the pointer fingers add up to the same amount. If they do, what are the pointer fingers going to do? Fall flat on the line. So if my two shorter sides equal exactly the base, they will fall flat and therefore not make a triangle. So let's practice with just the first measurements. I like to rewrite these on my paper in order from least to greatest. What is the least number here? It is 22. What is the greatest number?
47.
Oh, I should have said, what is the second larger number? 25. Sorry about that. And then what is the highest number? 47. Now I fill in my formula that I am using for right triangle. So for a right triangle, I would put into my online calculator, don't open this yet, you'll do it later. I would put into my online calculator 22 squared plus 25 squared. And guys, I have a shortcut that will really help you. You don't have to write that down and then square root it. You can simply put a square root symbol around the expression 22 squared plus 25 squared. Just put a square root symbol around it, and then you look to see if your amount is 47. If it is 47, then you know that this is your correct choice, right triangle. If it is not 47, you don't pick that. You go on to try the next one. A plus B equals C. So this time, when I rewrite, I am checking to see if 22 plus 25 is greater than what? 47. Class, what is 22 plus 25?
47.
It is 47. So, hey, will I pick it or not? No. Why? Because it would just what? Fall flat and not make a triangle. So what do you realize you'll pick for that first item? No triangle. Because guys, think about it. We didn't even end up needing to figure the Pythagorean theorem in real life because it can't even make a triangle. If it can't even make a triangle, then is there any way it could make a right triangle? No. So you could go in that order if you wish. Moving on to item 31. At a concession stand, popcorn cost $3. Drinks cost $2. A group of friends bought 11 items and paid a total of $28. This situation is represented by the following system of linear equations, where x, pay attention to this, x is the number of popcorns and y is the number of drinks. So notice if they're asking which statement best interprets the solution to the system of equations, here's the system of equations that you're working with. Y equals negative x plus 11. Y equals negative 3/2 x plus 14. So ask yourself, first of all, what are all of the numbers inside my black circle? Are they the x values or the y values? X. Excellent. How do we know that? Because they said the x values referred to the popcorn. So what are all the values inside my red circle? Y values. So what do you realize all of that is giving you? Each time you look at one statement, what would the ordered pair be for this statement here? Say it. 4, 7. So you would take the x value of what? 4 and put it in place of the x. So you would do negative 4 plus 11. What are you hoping it might equal? 7. If it does equal 7, it's just like the earlier item that you worked on. If it does equal 7, are you all done, or do you need to try it on the next equation? Try it on the next equation. And on the next equation, if 4 works in place of x and you get an amount for y equal to 7, if it works for both, then you say what? Yes, I pick it. Please check every item until you find the one that works. 32 is the last item. You all want to take notes on this. Select the correct responses to indicate whether the equations represent linear functions and proportional relationships. So on this section, you're going to choose linear or not linear. On this section, proportional or not proportional. Now, do you guys remember if we were to graph the equation, you would be able to tell if it's linear because the data would be in a what? A straight line. In order to be linear, all you need is a straight line. Doesn't even have to go through poop. In order to be linear, it just needs to literally make what it spells at the beginning of the word linear, which is what? Line. But wait, there's an easier way to judge just by looking at your equations. If they create what appears to be in the form of y equals kx, then you know it is linear. Right? Hold on. I'm accidentally giving you the rule for proportional. Scratch that little piece that I just said. So sorry. Okay. You're about to write down the rule for whether it is linear or non-linear. You could just make this example right here. Linear is over here. Non-linear is over here. Here are the two deal breakers. It is a non-linear equation if any variable is raised to a power greater than 1. So basically, if an exponent shows up, then you immediately know non-linear, non-linear, non-linear. Or if you see anything being divided by any variable. If a variable is ever at any part of the what part of the fraction? What is this part of the fraction, the lower part, called? Denominator. If you see a variable within the denominator, you immediately say again, non-linear, non-linear, non-linear. If you don't see an exponent like this on a variable, if you don't see a variable as a denominator, then what do you know it must be? you know it must be linear. Thank you. That is the linear nonlinear rule. Now back to proportional, which what I was starting to describe. Okay, proportional. If your equation could be rewritten in the form of y equals kx, do you remember what k represents? Constant of proportionality. If we have a constant of proportionality, hey guys, isn't the equation therefore proportional? Yes. So let's take a look at 5x equals 8y. Could I divide both sides by 8 and get the y all by itself? Could I do that? Yes. So I could literally write 5/8 x equals y, which means I could also write it the other way around, couldn't I? Y equals 5/8 x. So what is the constant of proportionality? 5/8. If it has a constant of proportionality, it is therefore what? Proportional. Exactly. Thank you. Okay, let's look at one that would not have a constant of proportionality. Let's go down here to item y minus 7 equals 12x plus 7. Now remember this. If it is instead of the form of y equals kx, if it is in the form of y equals mx plus b, guys, what is the plus b when you plot it on a grid? It's the y-intercept. Hey guys, if there's a y-intercept, then are you going through point of origin? No. And if you're not going through point of origin, is it proportional? No. So as soon as you see you have a plus b value, you know that it is therefore not proportional. But let's make sure that we still have it, because honestly, this one, for a moment, I was like, ooh, I'm not sure. Let me work it out. So let's work it out. Let's get y by itself. What do I need to add to both sides? Thank you for everyone answering me all at once. It's so lonely. Okay, so y minus 7 plus 7 leaves me just with what, class? With y. I would say with y. 0 constant, so you're not wrong on that. But normally we just say that cancels out and leaves us with y. And then equals 12x plus what? Well, what's 7 plus 7?
14.
It's usually 14. Thank you. Okay, so do we agree that this does have a y-intercept or a plus b value? Right? It could be a minus as well. It could be a negative b value. Either way, this makes it what? Proportional or not proportional? All right. I hope this helps. I wish you all well. Do your very best work, please.